It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Adrian College head softball coach, Coach Kaylee Fox. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's beautiful weather here at Adrian, so you can't really complain.
Wonderful. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started into coaching in college?
I actually didn't know until I got done with my first professional season. I had graduated from Trine University, and when I was done with season, I was supposed to start a career path in working with underprivileged kids and getting them involved in sports and things like that. But I got drafted to play my first professional season down in Alabama. And we got done, and I didn't really have a job anymore. And all my friends were like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this at this college and this at this college. And I was like, I didn't even think of that. So I actually applied to my first GA position and I got hired almost on spot. So I was kind of lucky to get into the role. And now that I'm here, I don't imagine my life being anything else.
Of course, what was your collegiate softball experience like and playing collegiate softball for Trinity?
Um, Playing at Trine University was probably one of the best opportunities that I've had in my career and in my life. I got to experience being with a successful program right out of high school. We were very successful in high school. So to be able to just bump that into college, it was a pretty great feeling. My experience at Trine was what built me to be who I am and how I bring my experience at Trine onto the field now as a coach. Every single day, we worked extremely hard to be a successful program that we were. And I knew that, and I loved that pressure. I love being able to perform under pressure or given the pressure and things like that. And that kind of built me to be the coach I am today. Being at Trine was hands down a great experience, especially with Coach D and the coaching staff that I had. So nothing to complain about. Loved it there. And now I get to share the field with him again, just on another side. And it's pretty cool to see, especially that we just played them. And he was really proud, and I was excited to be there. So it was pretty great experience.
Of course, what was that experience like getting to put on that Trine softball jersey and represent them?
I think every single day, and I learned this at my freshman year, so younger in my career, that I just was extremely privileged to be put on a jersey and be on the field with other women in that jersey as well. I think I still get goosebumps thinking about putting on my jersey and putting it on the same way every single day, and tying my shoes the same way and preparing for a game the same way. And you'll never be able to replace that feeling, especially you have your last game of your career and you're putting on your jersey and you're like, this could be the end, and you get to sit back and think about all the moments that you've had in that uniform. And it honestly still gives me chills. I love being able to put that jersey on and get to represent the team on the front.
Of course, in 2017, what was that experience like getting to go to the World Series as a player?
Hands down, one of the best experiences my whole entire life. I got to lead a team with our one other senior, and I was a junior at the time. And just seeing how young we were as a program and to make it to a college World Series game was something that I don't think anyone expected from us that year. I think they all expected it in 2018 when we had playing experience under our belt. But being able to walk into the stadium, it was a different feel, different smell walking in, just a whole different overwhelming experience that I hands down loved to experience. And now that I'm a coach, I strive for that experience because a lot of our players on our team, almost all of them, haven't even got to experience postseason softball. And every single day we tell them how great it is to be in postseason softball. So I think that's one thing I strive for now as a coach, because I do want to have that feeling again, and I just want to have that feeling as a coach now.
Of course, after that 2017 season going into 2018, did you make the College World Series?
We did not. We actually in 2018 took fifth in conference, and everyone was pretty shocked that that was the first time that we didn't make it to conference tournament in like 10 years. And we actually got to go to graduation as seniors, which we didn't really want to do. We were kind of bummed, obviously, because we didn't get to go to our postseason. But when we got done with graduation, everything like that, we were extremely lucky to have an at-large bid into the regional tournament. So we did get to still experience postseason softball, which I'm really happy, because I think I would still be pretty disappointed in myself if we didn't get to experience that regional in Whitewater at least one more time.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like getting into college coaching and going to Central Methodist?
Central Methodist was definitely a different experience than what I experienced in my playing career. With it being NAIA, it's ran just a little bit different than NCAA, but I had a really good coaching staff around me, especially Pat Reardon, the head coach, and Gene Reardon, and Jonathan Lynch. And it was so good to kind of learn from them and their experience and see how they could help me grow. But it was definitely, I call NAIA a little bit of the wild, wild west, just because they don't really have a lot of rules. They do have rules, but it's not the same as NCAA. So that was the biggest adjustment, is learning the difference between NCAA and NAIA.
Of course, what were some of the things that you learned as a grad assistant at Central Methodist to help you to go on to Minnesota Duluth?
I think the biggest thing that I learned was time management. It was definitely different from being a player when you just had to show up when your coach told you to show up, compared to now you're the coach and you have to show up and then tell people when to show up. So the biggest thing I learned was time management, and honestly how much time coaches put into their sport. I think as a player, we're definitely privileged because you only see what's going on in front of the scenes. And the coaches, and now that I've been a coach for 5 years, can definitely testify that there's a lot of behind scenes that you don't know that's happening. I think that was the biggest adjustment and the biggest thing that I learned from Central Methodist, of how much you actually have to do behind the scenes to make that program run.
What was that experience like getting your first full-time coaching job as assistant coach for Minnesota Duluth?
Honestly, it was kind of breathtaking, because I've always been the kind of person that wants to travel. I've never really been in one place for too long. So I got to experience Minnesota. Now, I love Duluth and I love Minnesota, did not love their winters. So that definitely was an adjustment. But getting my first position with Jen, which is now still my mentor to this day, one of the most influential people in my coaching career so far. She taught me all the steps. One thing that I really loved about her, that me and her shared the same qualities, that we were very honest with each other. And I think that helps a person grow, because if you lie to their face or you hide stuff or things like that, you don't get to grow into the person that you are today. And that was one thing I truly respected from Jen, was that she told me the honest truth about coaching and how to experience that. So it was pretty cool to be able to experience my first full-time coaching position, also being at a NCAA Division II team.
Of course, leaving that Minnesota Duluth, what was it like getting to go to become an assistant at Muscom?
One of the biggest things I think I was very excited about Muskegon was that I was closer to home. So I definitely got to see my family more, being back in Ohio, and also experience such a strong traditionally ran program was really good, I think, for my career as well, just to see another successful Division III program be led. I only had Trine University, and how we ran things at Trine is not obviously how people run things at other programs. So to work under Carrie was pretty awesome. She also got to take on the role as an athletic director. So she was able to share the responsibilities of being a head coach with me more. So I got to experience a little taste of being a head coach with Carrie Winters when she had to step away for being an athletic director and things like that for, when the things crossed. So it was really good to see. I got to experience a lot of the head coaching qualities without actually being a head coach. So it was really cool. And Carrie was awesome in the sense that she taught me a lot of things as a coach as well.
Of course, how did that time help you into taking this role to become a head coach for Adrian?
She definitely gave me all the tools that I needed to become a head coach. And when we got done with season, she had announced that she was stepping away from softball. And I got the privilege to interview at Muskegum, and it didn't work out. And that's perfectly okay. You don't get them all. But she gave me all the tools that I needed to become a head coach. And when we got done with my interview and she explained the route she was taking, which I fully understood, I sat down and I was like, Carrie, me going through these interviews just made me really want to be a head coach. And she goes, I knew you were going to say that. I wholeheartedly have your back. And she was pushing me to become a head coach. If you kind of look at her tradition and how she's run things, most of her assistants are only 1 year because they go on to be head coaches. So she's obviously doing something right. There's a lot of her assistants that are now head coaches. So that was definitely cool that I got to be a part of that tradition.
Of course, what was that feeling like coming to Adrian College to become the next head coach for them?
It was honestly a surreal feeling. And when I first had arrived on campus, my brother actually graduated from here. So I knew Craig Rainey very well. That was the new athletic director at the time. So I got to experience that with being a first time head coach and him really helping me through everything that, the interview process, things like that. But being able to step on campus, I had that feeling I had at Trine when I stepped on campus and knew that this was going to be my home for the next several years. And I'm hoping it's longer than that. I hope I get to build a program here that's traditionally strong. And right now, I really don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. So I think Adrian's home now. I love that I get to experience the bond with my brother that also graduated from Adrian and got to play baseball here. So I think that is also something really cool to have in the family as well, both be Bulldogs sometime in our life. So it was definitely, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, but walking on campus definitely brought me back to my Trine days and how excited I was to be back in softball.
Of course, when you became the head coach for the softball program, what was that feeling like? Obviously, as you said, your brother went to the school, so you knew about the school previously.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. My brother actually got me to Trine, and then when he had played there with Adrian and was like, "Hey, Kaylee needs to call up the Trine coach. Like, this is a beautiful campus. They're a really good program." So being able to experience being a Bulldog and my brother kind of leading the way with that as well is something that I honestly will hold on to the rest of my life. I truly appreciate being a Bulldog a little bit more than I thought I would because I was actually just talking to my players how weird it is that you're in the MIAA and you're on a different team and you're looking at all the different programs, and now I'm coaching one of those programs. So super cool to see, and I'm glad that I get to experience this.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the softball field for Adrian as a head coach?
Honestly took my breath away a little bit. I was pretty nervous. I definitely, and my dad's been here every step of the way too. Our family is super close, but my dad is actually an official volunteer assistant here for us as well. And I think he was even more overwhelmed than I was taking third base for the first time. But it definitely was a feeling that's second to none. And I'm so happy that I got to experience it with Adrian and this team that I'm coaching because I have so many great players and they're all wonderful. And I think that being able to experience it with them and having my dad by my side is something that you can never take away. It's definitely something that it's a core memory. That's what people say is when you make a memory, it's a core memory that will honestly give me goosebumps and probably take my breath away 30 years down the line when I'm still coaching.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've helped to build for Adrian College?
What was that?
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for Adrian College as softball coach?
I think the biggest thing in building the culture here at Adrian is coming from the team chemistry that we have right off the bat. I think that you step into a lot of programs and there's a lot of girls, women that are playing, that are on teams, and they kind of don't fully understand what it takes to be successful. And I think this team really needed someone to just step in and be like, hey, this is what it takes to be successful. And I think that's kind of where the culture started. So we kind of started a little bit at ground zero. Getting the team chemistry together was one of my biggest things that I wanted to do, because if you don't have a team that plays together and cheers on their teammates and has everyone's back, then you're not going to have a successful program. So I think starting from, like I said, ground zero on building their chemistry and making sure that they were close. I think a big thing too that they needed is just for someone to tell them that they are and can be a successful program. And it's honestly been the biggest thing with this year, is just letting them know that they are good. They are college softball players. And that was kind of building that culture as well, just making sure that they knew that they could do it. And they needed me to be able to tell them that they could do it.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your players?
I think for me as game day, if we're home, I'm usually here pretty early trying to get the field ready. I kind of take pride in what our field looks like and things like that. I think it's different putting on my coaching outfit compared to my Shrine uniform, but it's all the same way. I put my clothes on in a certain way, and I'm superstitious about everything. Making sure that the girls are okay that day, kind of seeing how they feel, making sure they're ready, getting the field together, like I said, getting the balls out, things like that. Whereas my players kind of, they have to go to class throughout the day, and then they get to show up on the field and put on their uniforms. We start with some hitting warm-ups and then going through fielding and all of that. I think that the nerves for both sides are still there, whether you're a player or a coach. So kind of getting past those was the number one thing I had to do as a coach. But it's definitely comparable between being a player and a coach. Just I don't get to go perform on the field. I just get to go perform down third baseline.
What is that home game atmosphere like, obviously, when you have those teams coming to your facility?
Honestly, our parents and fan base are truthfully something that has been probably one of the best things about this job. They support us coaches in any way possible. And that's truthfully sometimes really hard to find in programs. But our fan base alone is always rowdy. They're ready to go. We usually have a really big fan base when we're showing up to games, even when we're down in Florida. And I think the other teams, now that we're in MIAA play, bring that as well. So their fan base is pretty good too. I do have to say that we pretty much packed the stands for home games. So that makes me happy that we have the support from not only our parents, but from the community as well.
Who are some of the teams that you face each week in your conference?
So last week we faced Shrine, which was our first conference doubleheader. And then this week we've played Kalamazoo, and we play Olivet tomorrow. Next week we have Albion and St. Mary's. And then we have Calvin, Anderson's home, Alma, and then we finish up with Hope. So we have a couple of tough games coming up, especially starting tomorrow, and really focusing in on taking care of business at Olivet. But yeah, we have some of our hardest games coming up, and I think it's a different atmosphere when you start conference play compared to non-conference, because conference play is where the games start to matter. So you have to play your best every game. So now that we're in the full swing there, I'm pretty pumped to see what we can do in the MIAA this year.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like in getting to face your alma mater of Shrine versus going there to face them and coming home to face them?
So I think with it being me being the first time head coach at Adrian and going to Shrine this year is pretty surreal. I do have to say that I was a little nervous, and I had to talk myself down, and I had to give myself a prep talk. And one of the things I said was like, you played at this field how many times? You can coach here now too. So learning that that you can, take those emotions and really absorb them. And I'm excited for them to come here next year, not getting ahead of myself, but I think that Coach D is pretty excited that we get to face each other every year from here on out and get to see each other. We're pretty close. So it's definitely something that he loves to see and that I love to be a part of.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate softball?
It's a pretty not long process, but it can be difficult just because I know from a coaching perspective, you do get a lot of PSAs that reach out, and sometimes a lot of them get kind of thrown into the mix, and you don't want them to. But when we're in season, it's pretty difficult for us to sit down and kind of look at every PSA that's possible. Our big recruitment time is usually during the summer. We usually start in June, and we probably won't stop recruiting until October, November. We bring on I like to bring seniors on campus just because that's when they're closer to making their decision and things like that. And we bring them on campus for their official visit, usually fall of their senior year. And we get to show them what Adrian's all about, and we get to let them experience the Bulldog way. And I think that's pretty cool. But main part of our recruiting process is reaching out to me via email or Twitter and just kind of showing me game film, introducing yourself, getting on my radar, and then I get to follow you all summer.
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes when out on the road recruiting them?
I think the biggest thing that I look for is them with their teammates and with their parents. I think that how you treat your teammates and your travel ball coaches and your parents is definitely how you're going to treat me. So I think that's the biggest thing I look forward to when going and seeing them on the road is how they interact with their teammates and their coaches and their parents after the game. I also love to see hustle and I love to see hard work and going all out, even though it's a travel ball. And that's kind of how a lot of people look at it. I think that they think, oh, it's just travel ball, like we're okay. But I kind of take every playing opportunity like it's my last. So I really like seeing that as well in a PSA, just so that they know what it's like to step out on the field every single day. And if they get to play for Adrian, they get to, ball out every day for Adrian like it's their last.
What does that official visit look like when those prospective student athletes come to Adrian and see the facility?
Yeah, so we bring them on usually. I like to bring them on towards the end of the week just so that we can bring them on campus. We can take them on a campus tour just to kind of show them, what we're all about, show them our facilities, things like that. They get to meet with our admissions team, they're awesome. They work really well with getting kids in and kind of showing them financial aid packages and things like that. Then we bring them to lunch with our team. I think that's probably the best part because they get to see every aspect of our team and our players and how they interact with one another. And then they get to come back and chat with me for a little bit. We just get to talk about their future as a Bulldog and things like that. And then, yeah, and then that's when they get to ask me all the questions and things like that. And I get to explain how it is being a Bulldog softball player and things like that as well.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time versus your seniors putting it on for the last time?
I think being able to see freshmen put on their jersey for the first time is it takes me back to when I put my jersey on for the first time and everyone kept saying, oh, your 4 years is going to go by so fast. And I never really believed any of them, but it really truthfully does. And I love being able to experience that with them because I get to tell them, hey, you get to put your jersey on for the first time today. Just take it all in, soak it all up because you look at our seniors that are putting on their jerseys for the last times as we go through this year. And honestly, it takes me back to my senior year because I knew that there was a chance that every game could be my last. And I think being able to experience that from both ends of the spectrum is something that I can definitely be able to share my experience with. And I have a great bond with all my players. So whenever, they need to come and talk to me about maybe, oh man, I'm putting on my jersey, the last couple of times. They get to talk through it and we get to talk about their emotions and things like that. But definitely hurts my heart a little bit to watch seniors put on jerseys for the last time because I know how that feels.
What is it like, obviously, seeing those seniors put it on for the last time and then go on after Adrian to do great things, whether it's in coaching, playing professional softball, or even into the corporate world?
It's pretty awesome to see how they grow, not only in my program, but also how they're going to grow in someone else's program. I think it's pretty cool that they get to go on and be successful and kind of use their experience that they gained from Adrian, and not only from college, but from playing softball and balancing softball and classes and time management and things like that. It's pretty cool. And I get to now sit back and kind of just watch them be successful and them come back when they want and kind of share why they're being successful and things like that. And I think that's pretty cool to see, because you didn't just create a softball player, you created someone that can be successful in everyday life. And I think that's my main goal when I'm coming through, as a head coach and things like that, is to make them successful, not only on the field, but also in life.
What are some of your future plans for Adrian moving forward?
I think the biggest thing is kind of taken away from the softball side of things, but to kind of give the field a little facelift. I'm actually sitting at our field right now, and I'm kind of looking at it and just give them the little bit of love it truly needs. I think that's my big first step, but I'm super excited because I want to turn this into a championship program. And they haven't been a championship program in a couple of years, so I think being able to share not only my success that I had at Trine, but the winning programs and the winning culture and things like that, and building that success on and off the field is probably something that I'm most excited about for the future of Adrian, where every single year we're getting talked about how we're a contender in the top 4 instead of, the bottom 4. So definitely something that I'm super excited to get to experience and hopefully build here at Adrian.
What advice would you give those high school athletes looking to play collegiate softball?
I think the biggest thing that I always tell every PSA is to make sure that you find a home. I think a lot of times, and you're kind of seeing it more and more, they choose money or they choose it because of the coach and things like that. Although I want all of my PSAs that step on campus to really like me, but you never know if that coach is going to stay there full time or not. So I think you need to really experience the college and pick the college because you think it feels like home and because you love it there. I think we're kind of getting away from that as a whole in the softball community. So really just make sure that you're picking a home and what you see yourself going to for 4 years, because you never know when your last game is going to be. And I wouldn't want someone to only pick a school because they really like the softball program.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of collegiate softball?
Take it in. I think that, like I said, it goes by super fast, but you also get to determine your fate. So I think a lot of freshmen always think like, oh, I'm a freshman, I'm not going to play, so I don't have to put in the work. When in reality, that's when you need to put in the most work. You need to go take those extra cuts. You need to work with the coach, ask them for advice, things like that. I also say go get to know your coach as much as your coach wants to allow that. I think like the biggest thing that I got to do when I was on campus is I got to make a bond with every single one of my players on this team. And now every single day we get to come in and experience this together. So go get to know your coaches, go sit down with them in their office if you have some free time, and they do too. Be a presence in on the field, but also in those coaches' lives, because that's what we truly want. We want to create a bond. We want to create a relationship, but I'm not going to force it if you don't want it to happen. So don't be afraid to go have a conversation with the coach. They're not as scary as they seem, and just work extremely hard and don't ever give up.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes looking to play professionally, whether it's Athletes Unlimited or the MPF?
I think that you have to work extremely hard to get to those levels. And I think that kind of starts, like I said, your freshman year. So I got the chance to go play professionally, and it was probably one of the best experiences I've had. And I got to meet a lot of really cool players from all around the world. And I thought that was super cool to experience as well. But I think there's a big thing that you have to remember is that there's only a certain percentage of college softball players that do get to go on and play professionally. But if you do get the chance, whether it's here in the States or overseas, I always say take it. You never get to take back your years of softball. So if you skip an opportunity, I feel like you're going to regret it later down the line. And there's a lot of professional opportunities overseas, and definitely look into it and ask your coaches about them. But you got to work really hard because it's definitely a different atmosphere than what it is in college. So, don't get distraught just because you're set on playing and Athletes Unlimited and they don't ever call you. There are different avenues and different paths out there.
What advice would you give those people looking to represent a national team, whether it's U.S. or Canada?
I think that you have to start that process kind of earlier in your collegiate career. It's kind of hard to do just because there's so many great softball players that come before you. You really have to start the process earlier on in your career. So, reach out to those people, try to get in with the, Team USA and things like that. But truthfully, just be the best be the best self. So don't try to be something that you're not, and just try to be successful in the ways that you can be successful, and you'll get those looks and you'll be able to succeed in that level.
What advice would you give those professional athletes like yourself that were going from being professional athletes to getting into college coaching?
I think that if you still want to be a part of the college softball realm, that's the best avenue that you can do. I was kind of bummed I didn't get to play anymore, but now I get to experience my players playing on the field that I once got to play on and things like that. So if you definitely want to be in college softball still, and you haven't started that process yet, the beginning years of your process are not the best. You kind of are experience the college world at first, but don't ever give up on the process. I didn't think that I was going to be a 27-year-old and a head coach, but now I've made it, and I want to be successful and things like that. So if you still want to be a part of college softball, I feel like this is the best way to be able to do that.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
I think the biggest thing you got to start with, and I think a lot of coaches forget this, is creating that bond with your players and creating that trust. Because if you don't have that, then you don't understand what's going through your players' heads, and then you can't understand what level they're on and where they're at. I can now look at a lot of my players and understand where they're at for the day. And if you don't build that bond, if you don't build that relationship, then you don't get to know that. And I think a lot of coaches want to kind of keep their lives private and things like that. You spend way too much time with your athletes to not them get to know you. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is opening up, let them know that you're human as well. And I think a lot of times they think that we're not, but we are, and let them experience that, and become a family. And I think the best way of becoming a family is creating that bond and getting them to trust you and you trust them and things like that.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Adrian College softball program at?
I have a Twitter, and that's about it. And then for my program, we have a Twitter, Instagram, and a Facebook, and now a TikTok. My players love TikTok. So they post all the videos on TikTok. They got it. But you can find us there. It's pretty much AC softball for all of them. Or if you look up Adrian College softball, it's also there. And I'm pretty sure my Twitter handle is like Coach Kaylee Fox or something like that. So you can find me on that as well.
Thank you again, Coach Kaylee Fox, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Adrian College as the head softball coach.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Kaylee Fox, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Go Bulldogs!
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.